All right. Next up on the interview hour, we have Theo Katzman, songwriter. My man, New York bred, Michigan adopted, and now he's a Los Angeles guy. Hey, Chris, play your boy Theo, man. Theo was in the band Wolfpack. Now he's working in on his solo career, and he's a good guy. I've always wanted to interview him. I love his voice, and I love his songwriting. So this was a very special moment for me to get to interview guys that I admire. Not that I don't admire all my guests, but this one was special. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. I hope you enjoy the interview that Theo and I did. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Theo Katzman.
So close your eyes and cover up your ears. This ain't the message that you came to hear, but I can't help it if I just don't care. I don't want to be a billionaire. I'm tired of hearing about the IPO, all of the ways that all the cash could flow. It would be nice if it would trickle down to the people on the other side of town. But something tells me that they probably won't. Cause something tells me that it just ain't right. Taking donations for the 1% out of the pockets of the 99. So close your eyes and cover up your ears. This ain't the message that you came to hear, but I can't help it if I just don't care. I don't want to be a billionaire. Into outer space. No. They lost school teachers a living wage. I know nothing's gonna come from this, except for make a couple people pissed. It ain't effective far as I can tell. Telling the devil he should go to hell. And I don't even know who's to blame, or who's been marching in the hit parade. But I don't really wanna sing along if a computer wrote the fucking song. So close your eyes and cover up your ears. This ain't the message that you came to hear, but I can't help it if I just don't care. I don't want to be a billionaire, no.
Theo motherfucking Katzman, dog. What's up, dude?
How you doing, man?
Dude, I felt like we have so many mutual friends. I'm glad this finally worked out.
We do, man. We have, I know, like, people, and every time people are like, do you know Andy Frasco? I'm like, I don't think we've not actually met, right?
No, we've never met. This is our first time.
Yeah, it's like everyone, I know all his band members. They're all my homies.
Yeah, dude, like Chris Lawrence is my bass player.
I know.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
I love Chris, yeah.
So you went to, what college you go to?
University of Michigan.
Oh, you went to Ann Arbor. So
yeah,
you lived in Ann Arbor. And then,
yeah.
Aren't you from Long Island?
I'm from Long Island, bro.
Fucking Long Island.
Hey. And by the way, you're 818, so we got a little reversal here going on.
Dude, Valley, baby, switching it up a little bit. You lived in New York, and we're mutual friends with Caleb Hawley.
Yes.
And he's hustling that New York scene, and I feel so sorry for him sometimes because it's so hard as a songwriter to fucking really pop off in New York, right?
Oh, in New York? Caleb is one of the best. Caleb is one of my best friends, but he's also really one of the best, I think, in terms of if you're like, yeah, singing, guitar playing, writing songs on an instrument and delivering it, I just sort of feel like he's as good as anybody ever has been doing that. I really mean that.
Yeah,
I think he's as good as it gets.
I agree. And I was watching the 1985 set of Prince. Did you watch that on YouTube yet?
No.
Prince he threw out a 85, or Prince's family, because rest in peace, Prince.
But, yeah.
But
oh, did he?
Yeah. He's throwing out the fucking the live streams from heaven, dog.
Yeah. Wouldn't put it past him.
But it reminded me so much of Caleb.
Prince is a huge influence on Caleb, but also I think they just come from a similar place,
Yeah.
you know.
Minneapolis.
Well, yeah, they literally come from the same place. Yeah, I guess I meant musically, but yeah, no, that's a good point. I don't think I should be clearer. Like New York, I lived in New York. I was born in Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan until I was 7. Then we moved to Long Island. So I really grew up on Long Island, and I didn't really go. You know, I didn't get a chance to be an adult in New York until I decided to move to Brooklyn when I was in my 20s. So,
so you moved to Michigan and then moved back?
Yeah, I moved to Michigan for college when I was 18, and I was there. I ended up after college sticking around for 3 extra years. So I was there for 7 years, and I really became like a townie, you know, in Ann Arbor. That was another one of my dreams. I don't know. I just like being a local dude kind of, but I also am a Rolling Stone like you. So I have a funny sort of tangle between those two worlds, which is cool because the music life definitely allows you to get around the planet, which is a wonderful thing.
Explain the tangle. Like what are the conflicts you have in your head between having this like local boy feeling and the big city boy?
I don't know, man. I think it's people, you know. I love people, and you can really get deep. I like getting deep with people, and you can get pretty deep when you live somewhere for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really replace that, you know? So people be like, my buddy Tyler, it's like somebody gave him a piano, you know, and it's an amazing piano. It's like, what? You know, it's like, I want a piano. Well, you can't get one, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you need to know that guy. You need to have grown up around that dude. And he's like, you know what? I think Andy's ready for a piano, you know? Like,
yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Like, there are things that happen like that when you're in a community that are, and I'm not just talking about getting free stuff. I just mean like it's,
no, yeah, but the friendship, the companionship, you know, like building a family in an area.
We're definitely communal creatures, and I think that I just relate to that. But I also love travel. I love exploration. I love meeting new people. So one of my favorite things is being like, you know, just somewhere else where I don't know anyone.
Yeah,
and that it's so much, especially for an artist. I think that just opens up the creative process a lot. Back to this New York thing, I just kind of wanted to say I don't fault New York in any way for like, I don't necessarily know if it's harder as a songwriter there than in LA, but I just know it was for me. You know, it was just a harder place to live with no money.
Yeah.
So that's very real. I mean, when you want to live the dream in New York, and you're broke, it's kind of tough, you know?
Yeah.
It's a little easier to be, the same amount of money at least when I moved out here in LA at the time, could go a little further out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to find a weird rent situation where I was like, wow, I'm got crazy cheap rent in this house, and it's kind of funky, but it's totally okay, and it's on the side of a mountain, and like, you know,
what's the
stuff
where
like that.
are you in the canyons? Are you in like Topanga Canyon? Are you in the valley?
No, now I'm on the east side of LA in
cool.
Highland Park, but I don't live on the mountain anymore. I love the mountain. No, Mount Washington.
Shout out to Mount Washington.
Shout out to Mount.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's like, it's sometimes you need to move to understand what you had and how you want to grow as a person, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of people, when they're thinking about moving, it's like they sort of know that they're never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's so hard sometimes, but it's like, dude, you can come back.
Yeah. I mean, like,
you can, you might not, you know,
yeah.
but and maybe, you know, or you think you won't, but who knows? I mean, I moved back to Michigan after New York for like almost a year, and it was a tough year, but it was totally what I needed, you know, to go back there and kind of regroup and be like, now where do I want to go? And it was like, all right, I want to go to LA. I've always had that in my mind, and I'm going to try it out.
So what's the difference between between being a songwriter in LA and being a songwriter in New York?
Well, when I was in New York, I sort of wasn't a songwriter, which sounds weird, but I mean, I've always been a songwriter, but I was trying so hard to be a professional musician, like pay my rent with music, that I I kind of ended up doing like anything I could get my hands on. So, I met a lot of people that way. That's how I met Caleb, basically.
You met Caleb in New York or in Michigan?
I met him. This is a hilarious story. I was about to move to New York, and either I called or I got a call from my friend Reed, who's an amazing musician, person, drummer, singer, total amazing dude in Minneapolis, who I met touring with another band like years and years ago in Michigan. And what's up, Reed? How you doing? Hey, man, how you doing? I'm good, man. What's going on? I was like, well, I'm thinking about moving to New York, or I'm moving to New York, in a month. And he's like, oh, wow, that's crazy. He's like, you got to meet my cousin, man. I'm driving this car. He's sitting right next to me. He's amazing. You're going to love this guy. You guys are like the same person. I'm like, okay, puts him on the phone, and it's Caleb.
Oh, sick.
And he's like, what's up, man? How you doing? And I'm good, man. How are you? He's like, cool. He's like, hey, yeah, when you get into New York? I'm like, October 10th. Yeah. He's like, oh, cool, man. I got a set at Rockwood Music Hall on the 15th. And I was like, whoa, so do I.
Shut the fuck up. You had the same...
And he's like, what time? I'm like, 10. He's like, I'm at 11 or something.
Oh, my God.
And then I'm like, oh, my God. He's like, actually, I need a drummer. Reed said you're a good drummer. I was like, I need a guitar player.
Shut the fuck up. The universe worked that way?
We both agreed over the phone, having never met and never even heard each other play, that we would play in each other's bands.
I fucking love it, dude.
Isn't that cool? And the thing is, because we both, like, Reed is such a good musician and a great guy that we were like, all right, if Reed says this guy's dope, then he's probably dope. But then I got off the phone. And I was like, holy crap, what have I done, And I went to this guy. I went to his MySpace page.
Oh,
this is to give you an idea of when this was. And I pressed play on the first song, and I was like, oh, shit. And he was just like, and I was like, oh, this guy's amazing.
Were you nervous to play drums for that, or you already were good at being a drum funker?
I was pretty comfortable at the time with being, what did you say?
Drum funker.
Yeah, drums are my first instrument, so backing songwriter has been something I've done a lot on drums, and I feel kind of particularly adept to do that kind of playing on drums. But as soon as it starts to get into like level 3, like real funky
technical,
shit, I'm like, oh, I gotta tap out. Even though I can be bare bones, and sometimes that's appropriate. It's like, now like, yeah, any of the guys you play with can just smoke me when they need to.
Yeah.
Like, very, very, very much smoke me, which I love.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes us all better, right? It makes us want to get better, I think, when there's someone better than you in that.
Totally.
Like, are you a competitive?
Yeah, I think I am, unfortunately.
Yeah, I am too, bro. We're all.
But with music, it doesn't really manifest itself. I think that's what's beautiful about music. You can't really, I guess you could try to be so competitive about it that you, I don't know, but there's no like winner kind of.
Yeah.
There's no easy way to quantify it. I've been watching that Michael Jordan documentary.
Oh my God, like, what the fuck,
isn't it
right?
Incredible? Oh my God, yeah.
I'm obsessed.
It's really like what I needed at this time in my life, actually, to be honest.
And that it's a great segue, because it shows you how much it takes to be the best at something.
Yes, and dig this. This was so crazy to me. I mean, I don't know. This was my independent thought, but it occurred to me that I'm sure I don't know anything about basketball. I'm not like, I haven't followed a lot of sports in my life. I love
Joey.
Sports. Yeah, I'm not like Joey. Believe me, I was calling Joey when I was watching this, like, dude, Joey, like. And it's funny because Joey is such a basketball fan that he, of course, remembers all this and like knows exactly what happened. And I'm like, dude, when they came back in '94 or whatever.
So go back to your thought about competitiveness.
By the way, man, I think you're a great interviewer, dude. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, bro. Well, this is our first hangout, so we're gonna have more hangouts.
That's true, totally. What was the question? Oh, competitive.
So, like, what'd you learn from the Michael Jordan stuff that you could bring to your everyday life?
Yeah, well, so couple things. One, Jordan, everybody kind of agreed in the documentary, like all the contemporary players of the time, they're like, man, you couldn't beat Jordan on like his determination and his competitiveness. He just was sort of going to beat you at that. Like he was going to go harder than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes a theme in the documentary of like, as soon as he can get a taste of the competitiveness, even if he has to forge it in his brain, it'll drive him,
It's sick.
Incredible. But that difference, like some of those games were 8-point games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that entire year that he lived a year of working harder than anyone in NBA.
Mm-hmm.
These are the best basketball players on the planet, and he worked harder than all of them, and he worked like way harder, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And he came away with a couple extra baskets. It's like I'm not trying to diminish it. I'm saying like that was so beautiful to me that's like at the high level, like everyone is basically at the level, but for one person to stand out like that, because when you get better, everyone around you gets better because they have to play to your level.
Mm-hmm.
So he kept like sort of elevating the game in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally.
I don't know. I thought that was fascinating. And, I don't know how much you can like train yourself to be that disciplined. I sort of think of that personality type as a bit of like the talent. Like I think of hard work as part of talent in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, it's still work. Work is work, but it's sort of like not everyone can get motivated to that degree to be like, I am going to be the best whatever in the world.
Yeah.
And I also don't know that's not always the motivation that drives each of us. And with music, I think it can be kind of confusing because it's not just like, I want to sink a bunch of threes. It's like, there are no threes. What are you trying to sink?
It's like, it's an overall experience. Like, it's not just being good at one thing.
Right. And also there's so many facets to the life. Like, are you the kind of person that won't be happy unless you play 50 gigs a year? Or does that number need to be 100? Or can that number only be 10?
Mm-hmm.
It's that's a basic question right there that nobody really knows the answer to until they start doing it.
What is that? What's that question?
I need to play, man. I love playing. I'm a live dude, I love recording too, and I love writing, and that's the tangle. Is like, I think performing is my most natural, joy inducing thing. And it just feels right. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
If I don't do it for long enough stretch of time, I'd get pretty out of shape or out of whack. I start to feel like, who am I?
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, I want to ask you something. Was the dream always to be a solo act? Like, or did something happen with a collaborative style that you're like, I just want to do this myself?
I always wanted to be in a band,
mm-hmm.
and I was in a band in high school.
What band? What was it called?
We were called Livongo.
What was it? Give me a synopsis of Livongo.
Livongo, I'm so glad we're talking about this. Livongo was me and three of my best friends, Mike Gavalis on bass, Pete Kobos on keys, and Chris Zuar on drums. Zuar is a phenomenal composer, beautiful trumpet player, and plays piano really, really well. And like, we were sort of like, yo, Zuar, can you play drums? He's like, yeah, and he crushed it on drums too. So he's a freak of a musician. And then Mike and Pete kind of went into different paths in terms of not being like professional musicians, but both super talented.
Are they still your homies?
Cardiologist now, super good homies. We just had a Zoom chat on Friday. It was awesome.
So explain. So what was the mind state of this? Give me it.
Yeah, what was our thing? Yeah, our thing was, so we all grew up in this kind of like, pretty jock kind of like sports town.
Yeah.
And I'm an athlete. I am, but I
not obsessed.
I was also, I just wasn't obsessed with, I couldn't follow like sports. I can't follow anything. I can't like, I don't mean like I'm a leader. I'm not a follower. I don't mean that. I mean like, I can't keep up with stuff. Like I love movies, but people are like, "Have you seen the new thing?" I'm like, "No, I don't even know what you're talking about." I can't keep up with anything. I feel like, I learn about all that stuff from people.
Yeah, same.
I just talk to people, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I kind of feel like I know the cliff notes about a lot of things.
Is that the same philosophy when you're diving into new music? Do people have to tell you about music, or is that something you really passionately trying to find new music?
It's probably no. They have to tell me. I mean,
Yeah,
if I'm
same
not,
here.
if I'm still, yeah. And I've always been really insecure about that. I've always felt like
Why?
because I love newness and I want to know what's up, but I'll just listen to Stevie Wonder again. Like
So you like you have a routine, and when you have a routine for whatever part of your life, that's your routine, right?
yeah. I mean, I think the word routine is really interesting to me right now, especially in the quarantine, because it's like I'm trying to get a routine, but it occurred to me the other day that like your house and where everything is and this is all reflective of you and your mind state. So it's sort of like you're already living your life and your routine. It's like, whoops,
That makes sense.
you already have one.
It's like you're putting your life into fruition, or you're putting your mind into seeing your dreams become a reality in a sense, right? Or am I
like that. I think that's a very positive spin on it. Yeah, I like that.
What's the? Oh yeah, so give me the pessimistic spin on it.
No, well, not pessimistic, but it's just like we're all trying to improve ourselves, but you already have a way. I guess what I'm saying is you have your way
Mhm.
that you roll if you don't try to
Yeah.
change it. And that's almost hard to even notice sometimes because we're always going like, all right, well, what can I do to like improve?
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is this thing that's happening around you and within you right now is what you are doing, whether you noticed it or not.
So bringing it back to high school.
Oh, yeah, high school.
You were doing something. What were you doing?
So, in other words, we're a bunch of athletes who also realize we all love music, and I initially I fell in love with Zeppelin, so I wanted to play drums in my high school band. I remember being in the orchestra playing clarinet.
Clarinet.
In sixth grade or something, or seventh grade.
Could you get pussy playing clarinet? It's like, yo, babe, I got the clarinet. What's Gucci?
No comment.
Kidding.
But clarinet is a sexy instrument, man.
It is. I'm telling you.
It's also
man.
hard.
All right, go back. So you're learning clarinet. Sorry, I was just joking.
Yeah, it's okay. You're great. You're a wonderful man, dude. Look at you. Boundless joy.
give it to me. Give it to me, buddy. Give it to me. So you're doing the clarinet.
I'm doing the clarinet, and I noticed that the band is slowing down. I mean, like the orchestra. And I remember getting really frustrated with the fact that we were slowing down. And I went home one day and I told my dad, I was like, why is, the whole orchestra is slowing down? It's why? And he was like, the drummer's not holding it together. No, my dad was a professional musician.
Yeah.
So it was like,
he knows what's up.
He was like, drummer's not holding, the rhythm section ain't holding it down. I'm like, well, what's the rhythm section? I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
So then around the same time, I heard Led Zeppelin, and I just told my dad, like, I need to be a drummer. My whole thing is going to be not letting us slow down. That's going to be my thing. I'm going to keep us there,
That's sick.
And I mean, I tried to do that at in like a seventh grade, like, large ensemble. It was
so
not
you're always
the
been
easiest.
confident. I mean, you got that confidence in you, right? You got confidence swag.
I think I had a lot of confidence then for sure, because you didn't know anything. But no, I started playing the drum set, and I quickly started. Sorry, now I'm going back. I started my first band with some other friends, and we didn't have a singer, and I started singing because I like singing. So I was just singing and playing drums. That was my first experience, was playing drums and singing in a band. And then the more I got into music and songs, I started wanting a guitar. And my dad got me like a $25 acoustic guitar. and from a buddy of his gave it to him, and or sold it to him for $25. I don't know why I did that.
$25.
Anyway.
Wow, was it shitty?
I remember him being
or-
like, "Yeah, it was $25." It was definitely a POS model, but I got that thing, and I started writing songs. I didn't even think about it, and then it was like, I don't really want to be the drummer in the band. I want to be the singer in the band. And anyway, so then I formed this band with my 3 other buddies, and we would play original music and a ton of covers. And our original stuff was like co-written or a song of mine or a song of Pete's, that I would write lyrics to, or a song of Mike's that we would co-write together. And it was amazing, we would do graduation parties and
What were you writing
Sweet
about?
16s.
Like, what was like? What were the themes?
Yeah, well, one of the big themes actually was, or one of the moments for me that was like kind of, I think, triggered my sort of like deeper dive into like what's it all about internally was a friend of mine actually died of an allergic reaction to dairy when I was 16. It was a real tragedy, and yeah, we were good friends. We were all part of a group,
Mm-hmm.
and I really loved him, and I remember our whole kind of group was like, what's it all about now? Like, we hadn't occurred to us that could happen, and I think it made me a little more introspective, and I started, I wrote some songs about him, and I wrote some songs about life or whatever, and trying to figure that stuff out. And girls, I wrote some love songs.
Were you a sad kid growing up?
No, I was pretty happy, but I was definitely emo too,
Yeah, same.
But I don't mean emo like proper like emo music. I mean, I was just like emo. I was like listening to like, the Meters and Soul Live and Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I had a bizarre combination of things, and I was still emo, I just remember being sort of overwhelmed socially, which is always my state, like I love people so much, and I'm such an extrovert, but I need time alone, and the older I've gotten, the more I feel like I need time, especially. So this is where it gets interesting, is that once I became really interested in songwriting, I felt like I had to figure out how to sort of alter my life a little bit in order to accommodate songwriting, because I realized it really requires alone time, but at the same time, it also requires life experience. So it's a balance, I can't be just like the guy who plays all the time, because then I won't write anything. And then if I don't write anything, I get pretty bummed out. So it's a balance, And you were kind of asking, like, was it always about a solo thing? And the answer is no. It was more just that I wanted to sing, and I wanted to write songs, and play them with my friends. So that looked like a band when I had people that were
your homies
on board for that, And then once I went to college, I joined a different kind of like electronic dance rock band, and I realized after a couple of years of that, even though that was with my best friends, that I wasn't playing the role that I feel I need to play in my life, which is like I just want to sing. I want to sing, and I want to write lyrics.
Yeah.
When I went to college, I went to school for drums, because I always studied drums in school, but then I'd play guitar after school in my rock band in high school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just figured, it's time to go to college. Like, I'll audition on drums. I got into the program on drums. That was what I was most competent at, and in terms of like legitimate music education. And
were you singing your ass off yet?
I was singing a lot, yeah. But that's the funny thing, is I spent all of high school doing that, but then I went to college, and I got into the jazz program for drum set. And I basically had an identity crisis, because I was like, oh crap, I don't want to do that.
Mm. So why'd you pick it in the first place?
It's a good question. I didn't know there was any alternative. I'm not sure there really was for me at the time. I couldn't go study singer-songwriter-ness or something
at a jazz school, right?
I guess I could have gone to Berkeley, but I didn't. It wasn't on my radar really.
Why Michigan?
You know, my mom went there and she said she liked it. She was like, I really think you'll like the vibe, and they have a good music program. Just go do an audition. And I didn't. My mom did not. I did not grow up with my parents telling me about their colleges. I couldn't have even told you where either of them went to college until I started applying for colleges. Like literally no mention of it. My parents were not like collegiate type, like hail to the victors. You know, that wasn't the vibe at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically my mom put Michigan on my radar. I went and checked it out, and I ended up falling in love with the campus, and I also got a scholarship. So then it was kind of like, all right, go check this out, you know? So yeah, I think because I went in there for drums, I sort of had maybe, you said, why'd I do that? I guess it was because I got some scholarship money, and I just had been thinking like, well, you study music in school and then you do whatever you want outside of school. What it hadn't occurred to me is that in college, you know, all your time is going into that, like so much of your time. So I basically, I joined. I was kind of a rebel student by accident because I just didn't really want to be a jazz drummer, but I was the guy that they had selected that year to do that in the program, and so I kind of had to have a heart-to-heart with my professors, who ultimately were supportive and could recognize that I was a good musician, but I just was confused about what I wanted to spend my time doing, and which I think is pretty normal for like an 18-year-old, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's like changing a major, dude. Whatever.
Right. So I ended up playing guitar in this band. I was playing rhythm guitar, but yeah, after a couple of years of that, even though it was my best friends, I just realized like I'm not. Wait a minute. I haven't like been singing my songs like in years. This is crazy, and I really needed to leave the band and do my thing. And at that point, I was alone, you know? At that point, it was obvious that it was a solo thing because I didn't have my, you know, couple homies that were like, yeah, dude, let's be a band.
How'd that make you feel when you found out you were alone?
Well, I think it was both exciting and quite scary. At the time, I was so ready for a change that I really let it wash over me in a positive way. It was like, all right, man, you're go write some songs. And I did, you know, I made my first album. People kind of gradually moved out of Ann Arbor, and I stayed and, got a job with, at a music school teaching music. And I started making a little bit of money doing that, and that felt great. And then I just was gigging on the weekends, and then I was working a restaurant job at my buddy's restaurant and getting my first album together and getting it recorded, and it was a great time in my life.
Do you felt like Ann Arbor was a comfort blanket?
Well, it wasn't until it was, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until one day it was like, oh shit, I need to leave. Like now.
What happened?
I don't know. I remember thinking like, wow, everyone's moving away, but I don't want to leave. Like I'm so happy here.
Yeah.
And then one day I just was like, I think I remember there's a venue in Ann Arbor called the Arc.
Mm-hmm.
And I had played it by that point. And I got the local slot at the Ann Arbor Folk Festival, which was kind of a big deal at the time because it was like I got to play Hill Auditorium on the same bill as like Mavis Staples and Glenn Hansard and all this stuff, you know.
Sick, bro.
I didn't get to meet
Mavis,
but unfortunately, but it was a big deal, and like Citizen Cope and all these big artists.
So were you the only one of the local acts that they picked? Like
one Michigan act that they would try to bring up through the Arc.
Mm-hmm.
At least they were doing that then, and I got it that year, and I was really stoked to do that. And then after that, I remember maybe a couple weeks after I was teaching at the little music school I taught at, which the front of the music school looks at the back of the Ark. So you would see tour buses roll up.
Yeah.
And I just like one day I just saw a tour bus roll up and I was like, oh shit, I got to get out of here. Like I got to get on that freaking tour bus.
So you didn't really gig hard until your mid-20s besides locally?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't like gig big, but I gigged hard. If that makes sense.
So what? Like how many shows were you doing?
Oh man, I don't know. I did a lot of shows with My Dear Disco, my college band, and we played all over the country, man. We but really stupid shit, you know, like in terms of driving. So like we ran a short bus. We bought a short bus and ran it on waste vegetable oil.
You guys are fucking crazy, dude.
It was totally crazy, and like it burnt us all out. I mean, I don't know how many shows we did, but we definitely toured, and we toured kind of before the internet was really being used as promotional tool with social media and whatnot. So we were kind of just trying to like get the word out and send CDs to radio stations. It was like gnarly.
Pain in the ass.
Yeah, it was gnarly, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was an amazing experience, but basically after looking at that tour bus, and I met a couple people at that Ann Arbor Folk Festival, and they all lived in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met a couple people who played with Ingrid Michaelson.
Uh-huh.
I met Chris Kuffner and Bess Rogers and Allie Moss. I don't know if you know those.
Where'd you meet them? In Michigan?
I met him in Michigan somehow, maybe through the folk festival, or I think Ingrid was playing the Ark one night, and I met them at like a house party. Oh yeah, do you know Charlene Kay?
Yeah. What?
Charlene had a house party. Yeah, she's a Michigan person too.
What the fuck, dude? We know all these homies, dude. Okay. So
Charlene had a party, and I went to it, and like Bess and Chris and Allie were all playing at the party. That was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I met them, and we kind of hit it off, and Chris and I stayed in touch. And then I had that moment where I was watching the tour bus outside of my teaching job, and I was like, man, I got to get on that tour bus. And everybody I had met who was doing it in music lived in New York at the time. And so I called Chris one day, and I was like, hey, man, I'm just putting the word out, ready to move to New York. Or I texted him that. And he called me like immediately, and he's like, yo, I live with my wife, and we have this upstairs unit, and our longtime homie just moved out. Like, do you want it? It's $1,000 a month. And I was like, holy crap.
Was that a big step for you? Because how much was rent in Michigan?
Oh, it was probably
$250,
$300, man.
So were you nervous, and who convinced you into doing it?
Well, I basically had a girlfriend at the time, and you know, we were in love and the whole nine. So it was like, hey, let's move to New York together. I basically called my mom and dad, and we're like, this opportunity, but it's really expensive. And they're like, how much is it? I was like, $1,000 a month. And they're like, for your own apartment in New York? They're like, if you don't take it, we'll take it. My parents were longtime New Yorkers, so it was like.
Did you grow up with money?
I mean, we weren't like, we were definitely not wealthy, but I felt like I never had thought like, man, we don't have enough food. You know, like we were totally, I feel very lucky. I definitely was fortunate to grow up in that. And also my parents were so supportive of the music thing, because my dad's a professional musician and my mom's the daughter of 2 professional musicians.
So it was just in your blood. So they told you, listen, if you're not going to take this dream, no one could get rent for $1,000 fucking dollars. Get your ass to New York.
Yeah, exactly. They basically said that, and I mean, I'm looking back, like I'm very lucky that I had a couple. I've been lucky with that kind of timing, you know, with signs. It's like, all right, that's the time to move to New York. A couple years later, when shit had kind of fallen apart for me, and you know, I had broken up with a girlfriend, and we weren't living together anymore, and I had to move out, and it was like, all right, universe, where's my sign? And I put out a bunch of signs, and it was like, not New York, bro. It was like, no. I was like, what about that? No. I was like, I couldn't get, it was like, oh man, I can't get my like $500 rent.
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
Nope. You know, because I was splitting that, so I was paying $500.
So what were you doing to make the rent work to get you by?
That's the thing. I was I sort of like moved to New York and was like, I can play drums, I can play bass, I can play guitar, I can sing, I can write, I can produce. Take me.
When you say take me, you say New York. Give me some.
Yeah, take me New York.
Put me in the vibes. Okay, good.
Put me somewhere,
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I played drums with Caleb, and then I did some production work with Teddy Geiger.
Uh-huh.
And then I would go back to Michigan and do my gigs also, so it's like, oh, cool. I do this festival in Michigan. And then I would go to Michigan and record. And then I sort of started having this like between Michigan and New York thing going on. And wherever I could basically make money and do music, I was kind of doing it. And that took me, eventually one day, Darren Chris called me and he was like, yo, things are about to get crazy for me.
Was this the Glee right before Glee?
Yeah. He's like, I just got on Glee and like, it's about to get crazy. And I'm like, wow, that's wild, And he's like, yeah. And Darren was always a fan of my music and we were always homies in Michigan, but he was in the theater scene and I was in the music scene predominantly. So he's like, come out to LA. I want you to meet, I basically have a record contract now and I want to come out to LA and meet the cats that I'm working with. And so I'm like, okay.
Were you writing with Darren in Michigan?
We weren't writing together in Michigan, I don't think, if I remember correctly, but we were, we were kind of admiring each other from afar a little bit, but we would hang when we could, but we're both really busy. So Darren kind of calls me out, and then all of a sudden I'm working on a record on Columbia Records, like
his record or your record?
Yeah, his record. Yeah, it was like, it was sick. It was crazy. But then it was like, start going out to LA and I noticed this thing happening in LA. And by the way, I would go out to LA maybe a couple times a year because I'd go hang with Joey.
Yeah. Joey
Dosek, who moved out there from Michigan. Joey's from LA originally. So Joey had a lot of like deeper.
Is he a Valley kid? Where is he from?
Yeah. He's a Valley kid.
Yeah, I feel that vibe. I never met him, but I feel like he's a fucking Valley kid, like me.
Yeah, where in the Valley are you from?
I'm from Canoga Park.
I don't know anything about the Valley.
I'm gonna get him on the show. I'm gonna grill him about the Valley. But keep going. So Joey Dosek, you're riding with him. You started riding with Chris.
Yeah. So basically, I would come out to LA, and I noticed that when I was out there, and I'd meet Joey's homies, they'd be like, "Oh, Theo, you wanna? Hey, what are you doing Friday night?" And it was like, well, nothing. I get out of work with Darren at 6 or whatever. It's like, all right, come down to like Perch or downtown. We got, and I'd come in and sit in with somebody that have a gig like on the rooftop and they were kind of playing background music and getting paid and getting dinner and drinks. And it's like, wow, this is kind of a cool vibe. And then they're like, hey, can you fill in like tomorrow on drums? I'm like, sure. I'm not doing anything. And then they're like, hey, can you fill in the next day on bass? And I'm like, okay. So I started, every time I'd come to LA, the phone would ring. I'd call a couple people and I'd be like, yo, I'm coming to town for a week to work with Darren. And then they'd be like, oh, dope. And inevitably there'd be like 3 or 4 gigs that I'd get. And the light bulb just kind of went off. It was like, man, you're working so hard in New York to try to like connect with people and it's happening effortlessly out here. Maybe you should switch. And, I don't think I know there are other people who have had the reverse experience. And I don't think it's like New York has no gigs. Like New York is a phenomenal place and there's tons of music. And I mean, I know, I have a ton of friends live there and are crushing it in music. So I think just for me, it didn't really, that ended up being LA and I had to, luckily I was open to it.
So did Wolf start in LA?
Okay. Yeah. So Wolf started in Ann Arbor after I had quit that band, My Dear Disco. I had around that time met Jack Stratton and we were hanging out a lot. Kind of, we became really good friends. And
was that your best buddy back then?
Definitely one of them and still is, I'm fortunate in that I have like a crew of people that I would consider all my best friends.
It's fucking awesome.
You know what I mean? That's probably my greatest accomplishment in this life.
What, keeping friends?
Or just, that's my favorite thing, Yeah, I feel like, man, I have the best friends.
And that's important, especially when we're on that roller coaster and we're on those low parts of our life. You know, you need
man.
those boys.
Absolutely. So
was it always Jack's thing, or was it both y'all's thing?
Jack. No, it's Jack. It's always been Jack's thing, and Jack basically. I have a kind of a funny story about that. Jack had this large band called Groove Spoon, and their bass player left, and Jack called me one day and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come in and play some bass with us?" And I had just quit this other band, and I was like, "Look, man, I'd love to, but like, if I can't do more than like 1 gig a month or something, because I'm just like,
trained.
I got to do I just quit a band. I can't join another band." He's like, no, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that. You know, we'll just play. Probably play once every, I don't know, once a month or max. You know, I'm like, okay. So, Jack, I come into the rehearsal the next day and I played like some Steely Dan tunes, and Jack's like, "Yeah, cool, man. Sounds great. You know, well, got this one other guy coming tomorrow, but like, unless he's a total freak, like you know, you got the gig." I'm like, okay, cool. And
Joe Dart.
I called him the next day, and I'm like, he's like, "Hello." I go, "Was he a total freak?" And he's like in tears. He's like, "He was a total freak." And it was Dart. It was
Joe Dart. Wow. So what? He pushed you to guitar, or what?
Well, no. I mean, I was sort of like, hell yeah, dude, great. Like, I didn't.
Did you know Joe Dart back then?
I knew. I didn't. I think that's how I met Joe. But funny enough, I remember playing Bliss Fest in Northern Michigan with My Dear Disco, and this is probably in 2008 or something, or 6. I don't know. And sometime around then, and we had the best set. You know, we had the like late night dance set on Saturday night, but then the local high school band had gotten the Friday night set as the sort of like, right. So we were there like checking them out, and we were kind of hating on it, like being a bunch of idiots, young, competitive, right? And we're like, yeah, what do these guys got, right? I remember sitting there watching them with the bass player in the band, and we're like, what are these guys? You know, what are these? Oh, you're gonna play some jam band? What are they gonna do? You know, what are you gonna jam? You know, and then they start playing, and we're like, yeah, whatever. And then at some point, like my friend turns to me, the bass player, and he's like, "Man, bass player is like incredible," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, he's blowing my mind." You know, like the bass player. We just keep talking about the bass player. It turns out that was 14-year-old Joe Dart.
Oh my God! So he was young, and you guys were.
Oh yeah.
So he's 4 years younger than you.
Joe's, I think, 5 years younger than me currently. See if that changes.
Who's aging quicker? You know.
Yeah. But Joe. In other words, I was probably 19. I guess I was 19 at the time. And I didn't know I was watching Joe Dart. I wouldn't end up meeting him until he was 19. 18 or 19. So I met Joe, probably when he was 18. And anyway, after the Groove Spoon thing, I quit My Dear Disco, and I was determined to do my solo project, and I did it, and I started working around Michigan. I didn't know anything about the music industry, man. I just knew about like Michigan, you know, and I knew about like where there were gigs, and I knew you could get like $1,500 for the weekend playing at, you know, in Marquette, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula, like at this bar, and it was like, we're going there, and then we're going to Lansing, we're gonna play Max or whatever, you know. It's like we're just gonna play wherever we can play. Yeah. And out of that, at some point, Jack called and was like, "Hey, our friend is doing his senior thesis for his recording engineer degree, and he wants to record a band on tape." Jack just put me, Dart, Woody, and himself together. We played a couple tunes in the studio, no rehearsal, filmed it. And
you wrote all those songs without rehearsing?
Jack did, yeah.
And then you guys said, "Let's fucking ride."
It wasn't even that. Yeah, it was like an experiment for our friends like project, and then we sort of was like, oh, that was cool, and then one of the videos caught on like notrouble.com or something, and then it kind of became a thing, but it was always a side project, you know. It was always like, yeah, it just was never something that we thought was a band, and we resisted calling it a band for a long time, and until people were like, it's a band. It's great music. I love the guys, and it gave me a ton of experience, you know, to just in terms of like singing and stage and performing, and like, you know, getting to learn how to play to 15,000 people.
Yeah,
it's like,
fucking Madison Square Garden too, dog.
It's crazy.
Going home and play the fucking Garden, Theo.
Yeah,
That's tight as shit, dude. Come on.
Yeah, it was really, really incredible experience. Basically, no matter what happens in your life, I'm finding like you still have your North Star and you have to deal with it.
Yeah, agreed.
And you don't choose it. It's like, I think I would love to be in a collaborative band where I'm writing the songs, but I haven't found that yet. So it's like, it's a solo thing until it's not, sort of. And there's momentum luckily for me, there's momentum under the solo thing. Just because my North Star is like, I want to sing, and I want to sing about things that I feel. So I sort of feel like I'm going to be the one writing the lyrics, or at least a significant amount of them. And that's kind of it. I don't, beyond that, I don't really care what it is, but for now, it's Theo Katzman, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, well, it's past Theo
thing.
Katzman. It's about playing art for authenticity. I mean, we're not just doing art for our shits and giggles, right?
Totally, man. No, I know that exactly. And that's where it gets. I think there's also just practical things as you get to be in your 30s. It's like, not everybody wants to jump in the freaking van anymore.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's totally power to them if they don't.
What about
totally
you?
Get it. Yeah, I'm down, dude. I'm down.
No,
Darts
but like,
down.
Work smarter, not harder. You know, as we get turned into our 30s,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, definitely. But that thing is still there of like finding the balance, but knowing that you got to make your music. So yeah, the Wolf thing has been a blessing. You know, Jack is the leader and he's the strategist. So any decisions about playing or not playing ultimately are what are his call. You know, I don't know that he's as much of a live guy as I am in terms of what he enjoys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's one of the best performers I've ever seen. I think he's a phenomenal performer, but I know that he really gets off like doing the videos and doing the production and doing the internet stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sort of the reverse, you know.
You want to be out there.
Well, I want to be out there and I want to be in here. I want to be like writing, and then I want to be playing. And that's kind of it. If I never made a video for the rest of my life and I just made records and toured, like, happy as a clam. I'll figure out how to make a damn video, but it's not
gonna be Jackie.
It's not Jack. It's like, that's not where I'm at, you know. I mean, I love, yeah, it's not where I'm at. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's true.
No, I mean, who cares? I mean, everyone has their own identity. It's like, that's the same thing with me. Like right now, I can't tour, but I've started this talk show, and I love Howard Stern. He's my favorite. So like,
yeah, right on.
You know, it's like we figure out ways to make our brain stop judging our life, right? Because like,
man.
What about you? Like, what are some insecurities you still have about your life at 30? What are you, 34? 33?
I'm 30. I think I'm 34.
34. I'm 32.
34.
86.
Nice.
88. Yeah. Yeah. What up?
I'm 34. 34, and there's so much more.
What are you overthinking at 34 years old?
Yeah, right.
You know, Theo Katzman, you know.
I mean, I'm definitely overthinking a lot of shit. I mean, I'm definitely, you know, songwriting is not any easier than it ever was. It's, you know, I get freaked out about not being good enough.
Not being good enough?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mean that like condescendingly. Like, what do you feel like you're
as
that
an
you're not
artist,
good
as a
at.
songwriter, as a not a not reaching as much of my potential as I could. I mean, it's all ego shit. It's all so ridiculous when you say it. You're like, even just me saying that and you being like, what? I'm
Well,
like, yeah, what the hell am I talking about?
No, well, I'm the same way. I mean, like, I'm always thinking I'm not good enough, and like what? How do we turn off the ego to make us do our best work? Because when we're feeling insecure, we're not doing our best work. We're
correct.
We're feeding the ego.
I know. I think the closest there's two things that I've come across that have really, really like made an impact on me in this way. One is the book The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
I'm gonna read that. Write that down. War of Art.
You can read it in like an hour and a half.
Tell me about it. Give me the synopsis.
Basically, he's a former Marine who like was resisting the call to be an artist, and he kind of like his life ended up in shambles, and then he was like, holy shit, I gotta be a writer. And then he started writing, and he has basically come up with this like manifesto of what it feels like to be an artist for him, and what it feels like to battle what he calls resistance, which is, I would say, the calculation that your nervous system makes when you think you have something to lose, which is to say like, oh, Andy's going to sit down for an hour and try to get better at piano. Oh shit.
Yeah. It's like,
better not do that, Andy. What if you don't do it? What if it doesn't go well? You know, like what if you try your best and you turns out you're not that good? That's what we're all afraid of. We're not afraid of like, do you know what I mean?
letting ourselves down.
I think it comes from the deeply rooted fear of rejection from the community that we all have in us as humans. And
yes.
it's like, oh, look at you up there on the billboard. What you got? You know, what that's what happened with, bring it back to MJ with Michael Jordan. You know, after he won the third championship in a row, there was nothing he could have done but fail, because he could either meet people's expectations, which is he's going to win another championship, or he could fail, but he wouldn't be exceeding anyone's expectations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Between championship 2 and 3, that was some like, no one's ever done this shit.
Yeah. So he's
Can
still
he do
fighting for something.
Yeah, and then I'm not saying that's why he quit. I mean, he had a lot of personal stuff going on, but like after that third championship, I noticed in the interview, they're like, how do you feel? And he goes, relieved.
Yeah.
And then they're like, do you feel like happy or any joy? And he's like, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But mostly relieved.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you can't, that amount of pressure is so hard to fathom, but it's the same thing if you feel like you've ever made a good album. It's like, Jesus.
That was my next question. When you first put out your first solo record under a big label, was it a big? I don't know. I thought it was a big.
No,
label.
I'm actually, I've never been with a label. Actually,
Still.
Yeah, no label.
Fucking rock and roll. That's what I'm fucking talking about, Theo. You fucking
Thanks,
put that
dude.
shit out. But like,
I never had any offers. If you're listening, labels, I never had an offer.
Labels. What the fuck are you doing? Theo Katzman is on the market. Get the fuck to it. Jesus Christ. But like seriously though, is that the kind of the feeling you felt when you first put out your solo record?
My first solo record, I think I was really stoked because I kind of was proving that I was something.
You are
know?
Lovable by yourself.
Yeah, I was like, this is me, goddammit. And I definitely had a feeling of like, there's a great feeling that you get when I don't know if you've had this feeling when you finalize something like a record and you're like, okay, this is as good as I am and I am no better than this.
Yeah. 100%.
But it's such a relief because it's like, now you don't have to keep thinking about it. It's like, there's Andy Frasco.
Yeah, that's me.
Warts and all. Like that's a good feeling. And, so that album felt that way. And then I kind of, like I told you, I moved to New York and I tried to make a living and I tried to break into the music industry. And I just really didn't understand the concept of like, have a job and then be an artist. I sort of was trying to make the music thing be the job. And it took me like and then my father passed away in 2013 and I had this breakup and I basically fell off my horse pretty hard. And it took me like, there's a 5-year gap between my first album and my second album. hadn't really become an artist yet. You know, I was trying to make a living. I had moved. I didn't understand what was next for the path of the solo artist, and I was playing drums in people's bands, touring with them, and then I was producing tracks for other people. My brain, I was scattered everywhere.
So were you doing all these things to distract yourself from you overthinking?
Honestly, I think I just was trying so hard to pay my rent that I was trying to be everything for everyone else.
Yeah.
I just really got eaten up, and it was necessary. And out of that came, and I started making my record, what would be my second record in 2013. But then, my dad died, and I had this breakup, and I had to move, and I got depressed for like a year.
Your dad passed away?
Yeah, he was 85 years old, so he had a good long life, but he died, and it was tough. Like, it was tough timing to go through like the death and the breakup and moving, and I just was like, so I moved back to Michigan and lived on my buddy's floor for
Damn,
8
your
months.
dad was fucking late, dog. He was late, dog.
He was late. Yeah. Well, he had 3 other kids prior.
So you're the baby?
Different marriage. Yeah. I'm the only child of my parents' marriage. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Man, that's a lot to deal with, though, man.
Yeah, it was crazy time. But I came out of it like with a clearer picture of what I wanted to do, and then out of that, also, that's kind of when Wolf started popping off, which was sort of like, again, it was like, whoa, what the heck is this? You know? But I had a couple years there in LA, 2015 through 2017, where I was like in town, playing a lot, writing, and I came out with my second album, and then I felt really proud of that. And then, the third album came out a couple years after that. So I'm going to try to do one every
couple
year and a half, 2 years.
That's important, man. That's important. I know you're busy. Let me, I want to leave with this. Like, first off, thanks for this. This is amazing. I feel like we're really getting to know each other a little more.
We are, man.
And we should talk more off of recordings and just, be friends.
Yeah.
But,
I think we might be friends.
I have a feeling.
I think we might have already,
Yeah, today we passed the.
Yeah.
So do you go to a therapy? Or do you have a therapist?
Yeah. I talk to a therapist every once in a while, or whenever I feel like I need to, yeah.
What was the triggering point to make you feel like you needed therapy?
Well, when I was like dealing with a lot of grief, out of the like death of my dad and the breakup and the moving thing that I went through, I definitely went to, started seeing a therapist out in LA. And it's just like really helpful to talk to somebody that you're not bumming them out. You're not worried you're bumming them out, because it's like not your homie, even though it's really valuable to have homies that you can talk to. But now I have somebody that I can, it's actually over the phone, and it's so kind of a different approach, and I like it a lot. It's a little more like sort of philosophical, psychological stuff that I can kind of consider and evaluate my situation with.
Like what type of you don't have to go in deep details, but like therapy is like kind of like rewiring your brain in a sense of like kind of figuring out who you were before and who you are now. How long did it take you to rewire through therapy to make you feel better about yourself? Well, I don't know if I did rewire anything. I think I just became aware of certain patterns, Like and what? I mean, you just got to be on the lookout for that's why I like meditation practice, is supposedly if years of this stuff, you start to be able to notice, you just notice something quicker. You notice a train of thought, a pattern, like a negative thought, a positive thought, all that stuff, And I think it's really important to try to like catch yourself. And and journaling was helpful, it's like
look, if you flip through the pages of your journal and you flip back a year and a half and you're writing about the same thing, it's like maybe it's time to make a change.
Yeah. Oh wow, I didn't think about that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
And you can't get down on yourself for things take however long they take, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, I just like I came back from this tour. I was just on tour, and it's like really hard for me to transition out of tour for some reason. Do you deal with that?
Yeah, 100%. They call it the it's like
Post-tour
the come
depression.
down. The come down. You know,
Yeah.
like the first
PTD.
couple days you don't know what the fuck to do. Like that's the thing. Like you basically got off a tour and went into quarantine. Like that must have been fucking hard, dude.
It was crazy. Yeah, no, it didn't. I sort of hit the ground running, and then like a couple weeks later, I started to like I was like, oh shit,
This is
what the hell's going on? I'm
I know.
disintegrating.
especially in LA where you're stuck and all summer. It's like you just gotta stay busy, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay busy, but also let this time kind of teach me what some of those things are. I mean, nobody really knows what's next. It's a
I know.
weird feeling. It's like, what's next? And I think for me and a lot of my friends, the people I'm close with, there's the scene has kind of been building, and now
Yeah.
it's sort of like, what's next? And I think for a lot of people, they're in a transition period, and certainly the world is. So, be interesting to see what happens out of that.
I'm very curious. All right, I got one last thing. So when you're writing all
Yeah.
these journals, at the end of your life, hypothetically, if you're not writing journals, it's all good.
Yeah.
At the end of the life, when you give out your yearbook, your life book, what do you want to be remembered by?
Oh man. I don't know if I've ever. Yeah. I'm thinking of I saw a sign in Dublin once on the side of a house.
Yeah.
It said, like, so and so lived here. Author, or it said so and so, like someone's name.
Yeah.
Author of many plays lived here. I thought that was kind of cool. It was like, wrote many plays. Like, that's what that fucking guy did, you know?
So you want to be a songwriter. You want to be remembered as a songwriter.
Honestly, I just want to, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I want to write songs. I want to get over myself and write them and not worry about if they're good or not, which is very hard to do. And anyone who's tried knows. But I know people who kind of don't care anymore, or they're 50 and they fucking broke through that, or maybe they never did, or whatever.
Yeah.
But getting there with songs, being on that journey, and I want to have a family, and I want to have a lot of friends, you know?
Well,
That's it.
You're on your path, and I'm looking forward to celebrate your life with you, buddy, while you're still alive, because we're going to be fucking friends now, baby. I'm going to send you dick pics.
Thanks, Frasco.
No, man, I
That's
appreciate
amazing. You're like, he's looking forward to celebrate your life with you while you're still alive. Thanks for throwing that one in there.
No problem. Theo, thanks for being on the show, man. It's very nice to meet you, and everything
Same,
my friends
man.
said about you, they're all right. So you're a good guy.
Same, dude.
Dude, cheers, bro. Well, have a great day in LA.
You
and
too, my man.
I'll send you a text here, and let's be friends. You should be on my talk show, dude. It's like 10 minutes. Like,
oh my
live
God, I'm
stream.
doing your talk show?
We play a game. Yeah, dude, I'm addicted to work, bro. So, yeah, well, I'll talk about it later. But Theo, I love you, bro, and just
Love
stay
you too,
up,
man.
And I got
You
your
too, brother.
back. Anyone else you need. Love you, bro.
Same, man. Cheers, bro. Peace.
Later, pal. Later.
Don't you want somebody to love when you're lonely? Don't you want somebody to lighten your load? Don't you want somebody to think of you when you're away? Don't you want somebody like me? Don't you want somebody to make you your breakfast? Songs that do that you do right. Talking over coffee in the living room. Ooh, yeah. Don't you want somebody to watch all your favorite shows? baby. Don't you want somebody like me? And as the world keeps spinning, we'll keep living by each other's side until we pass on through this life. It's you and I, it's you and I. Until we pass on through this life, it's you and I. You and I, you and I, you and I, it's you and I. Don't you want somebody to figure you out? Yeah. Finishing your word before they leave your mouth. Somebody told you you're tight at the end of the day. Don't you want somebody like me? And as the world keeps spinning, we'll keep living by each other's side until we pass on through this life. It's you and I, it's you and I. Until we pass on through this life, it's you and I. You and I, you and I, you and I, it's you and I, you and I, you and I, you and I, it's you and I.
All right. Thanks, Theo. What a great conversation. Good guy. We have a lot of mutual friends. He's just, he's got a good heart, and he's a hard worker, and he's just passionate about music, and fuck, every project he's done is pretty badass. And so shout out to you, Theo.